Hi, welcome to another edition of Confabulation. I'm Jill Jackson, and we are based out of our sister's house here in Tacoma, Washington. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Rena Williams. She's here to talk about what we are confabulating about today, and that is sex trafficking. Rena, would you like to introduce yourself first?
Sure. My name is Rena. Thank you for having me. My name is Rena, and I formed Another Level Sex Trafficking program. I do teach all human trafficking when I'm asked to speak or when I do my groups or presentations. And I'm out of Portland, Oregon, and I have a website, anotherlevelportland.com. You can go to.
And we'll have that information, contact information for Rena below. Joy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Joyce Nagala, and I'm the project coordinator here at our sister's house.
Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm the social work intern here at our sister's house.
So I'd like to give a shout out to our resident artist, Lawrence Jackson. If you can see some of his work over here, over Rena's head, and behind me, and we'll leave his contact information below as well. So Rena, you have a nonprofit organization in Portland, Oregon. You have a support group. You work with victims of sex trafficking, human trafficking. Want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I started the group because I could see the hidden issues with women in recovery. So that was recovery from drugs and alcohol. And it took off. I mean, I didn't expect for all this to happen. So what I did is I created a sign-in sheet with guidelines, and I do the educational piece once a week. And then after I give them the education, then they can form their own opinion. I don't pressure victims like to get it overnight because it's so normalized in our society, and people often look at survivors and victims like criminals, and they're not. They're abused. They've been abused, and they have a lot of trauma.
What's a good working definition of human/sex trafficking? That's just for people who don't know.
So
So
I went to University of Oregon, and it strictly was on sex trafficking, but there's all kinds of trafficking. There's organ trafficking, debt trafficking, labor trafficking. There's all kinds of trafficking. Anytime you force somebody and it's illegal, and laundering and all that stuff, exchanging for money and it's basically it's against the law, and so it's the second highest organized crime in the world. And so, but anyway, with human/sex trafficking, human trafficking covers everything, like with the human being. But most of the research that I've done, there's always sex trafficking with the debt trafficking or labor trafficking, and so yeah. So I try to be careful with that because I teach it all, but primarily sex trafficking. Yeah.
How did you form Another Level? I know that you shared it with us, but I just want you to share it with our users.
So because I had lived experience and family members too, like I shared earlier, and so with my experience of being trafficked as a minor and having a pimp was like I just thought it was a lifestyle, it was normal, and it wasn't. It was unhealthy, it was crime and blah blah blah. But as I got, the judge sat me down, I should say. But after that, I still was like, had regulars wherever I was at, regular clientele. And it was normal for me. So when I got clean and sober, because I had a crack addiction, the late 80s, it was real rapid in Northeast Portland. And so I said, let me get clean, And when I had 2 years clean, I realized I had the issue with making money. You know, and you would never know it because when I came to the meetings in my little short dresses, designer stuff, you know, I just thought it was normal. So the population that I was around, the environment, they really never said anything to me.
Because they helped you normalize it
Yeah.
by not saying it.
So finally, 2 years clean, I went and got help. And I realized, you know, because my kids weren't with me at the time, they were in California with my family, so I wanted to be somewhat healthy and fit and stable before they came home. So I'm very proud of that decision that I made with going to treatment at, it was Prostitution Alternatives, and I went there for a whole year and I graduated. And I never turned a trick since. 1996. My old ass. I know. So.
So I have another question. What does sex trafficking look like? Like, what does the beginning and the start of sex trafficking look like? What's the whole grooming process? What takes place?
Well, first of all, the population, I would say, is the vulnerable population, like people, like children that come from broken homes. Usually 95% of victims have been sexually abused, and they end up doing, you know, like stripping, sex trafficking. So they target that population. You can tell when somebody's vulnerable. If they're standing at a bus stop, outside of the foster care. Now they're grooming people that are in prison too. If they know they're in prison for sex trafficking and prostitution, they're starting to go that route too, which is like
I didn't
social
think about
media.
that, yeah.
It is. I've done a curriculum on that as well. So it's like really rampant. Like they're finding different ways to reach a client, or a client, God forbid. They're a victim.
Yeah.
Jeez. So the grooming process though is basically, you know, the first step is relationship. Usually starts with relationship, gifts, alienating you from your family, and then isolation, and then pretty much abuse. After that, you have to pay me back.
How do you think it's changed since you started and now?
Social media.
Where is it? Is it more Instagram,
All of that.
like Craigslist type of?
Yep.
Where
all of it.
where is it most? Or apps, like certain apps.
There's
or-
certain apps, you know, that task force or they have special people that try to find those apps or those websites. But yeah, it's definitely social media.
You think they're using the social media more than
Oh yeah, yeah.
the streets?
Oh
Or
yeah.
both?
Social media because it's easy. It's easier, and you're behind something. Nobody can see you. You know, you have to dig harder. Like I said, the gang members in Portland, Oregon, they used to be like out on the street slinging crap and you know like that. Now they learned how to groom a female, and they can put her on the street and be seen, and they can hide in the back, so they'll never get caught. And even if they do get caught, they're still going to get paid because the girls will send them money, put money on their books, and it's rapid.
Wow.
I mean, the demand is high right now. You know, it's like, not the demand, excuse me, edit that. It's the, what do I say? It is a generational thing to where people are making it okay, kind of like what we just said about my community, like getting clean and sober. So now it's like boyfriend and girlfriend, but really it's not. It's that whole creating trauma and a codependency relationship, unhealthy relationship.
Yeah, because I noticed that a lot of times, because we're a domestic violence agency, that you'll get women and they'll tell you their abuser is a gang member, and they're scared because of the retaliation. And a lot of times they'll have kids
Yes.
So I noticed that in the last like 4 or 5
Yeah.
years.
There's a
That-
street code.
Yeah.
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 How do you think that? I think this question's way too early. I was gonna say stop sex trafficking, but I think that is way too early to even ask that question.
How can you educate on sex trafficking, and what ages do you think you should start educating on sex trafficking?
That's a question.
Yeah, that's
Well,
Like, what are the
do-
earliest ages? You think it should be middle school, high school, elementary school?
Elementary school.
And how would you address
I
it?
believe it should be elementary school today because there's so much sexual abuse, like in the home. So to me, to address it would be all about the approach and how you deliver that message to that youth. You know, you have to be very careful with the words you use. You know, and with this, and so that's like when I did my summer camp. You know, I did stranger danger. I did the dangers of social media. I questioned them like, well, what would you do? This is the next question. And you know what? They received it. They were like 5 years old to 13, and they received it.
You said that you would educate children in like elementary schools. You said 5 through 13.
Yeah,
Right.
that was at a summer camp.
So how would you approach the idea that certain parents would probably not be okay with that? Because
Well,
that's a possibility, right?
That's a
Like,
very
I can't-
Yeah.
that's real.
Yeah.
I mean, we're probably not for that. We think
I
education is
didn't-
important. So
I have no idea on that one. They would probably have to address that stuff at the school board meetings or PTA. I have no
but
idea.
how would you, as an advocate for education, approach that?
Me personally,
Yeah.
I would have to. It'd be more than just me to get through to a community,
How would you guys?
especially depending on the neighborhood
Yeah.
or who
Yeah.
who I'm addressing it to. Because
Yeah.
people are very closed down. This ain't happening in my neighborhood, you know.
Yeah, this didn't happen to my
It's not
child.
happening.
So it's very
This
that
didn't
is.
happen to me.
It's like
Yeah.
what it's kind of like what I discussed earlier about going into the prison. It's like no, we don't want to do this, but yet you're still going to have victims that come out and still prostitute.
Because it's so taboo.
They don't want to talk about it.
Do you
They
think?
don't want to hear about it.
Do you think we'd have to educate the parents first before
Yeah.
we educate the children?
Absolutely.
Because just like a lot of these parents are unaware of these situations.
Right.
They only make themselves more aware of sex trafficking when their children might get kidnapped
That's
or they
what it
experience
is.
it or come
Yeah.
across a kidnapper.
Mhm.
It usually has to be first-hand experience in order for these parents to be like, okay, what do I do to protect my child now?
Or
Right.
joint education with
Yeah.
parents and children simultaneously.
At this
Well,
point,
you know, so I don't need to cut you off. It's crazy to me because, like in Portland, Oregon, it's like you're complaining, like about the foster care system. Half of the 45% of the victims are in foster care that are sex trafficking victims, but yet the parents of all these children that are in foster care, they're not doing nothing. They're all like. They're probably middle class, maybe, some of them maybe not, you know, and they need to know about, you know,
sex trafficking.
yeah, that it is real. Like that little teenage boy that your daughter's hanging with, you know, he might be pimping her. And she's so in love, she gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah, because having worked in the foster care system, I do know that a huge amount of foster parents are actually, they're mostly white. They're mostly uneducated and unexperienced in these types of matters because they came from privilege. You have to make a certain amount of money to become a foster parent. You have to have a certain lifestyle to take care of a foster kid. So they're just kind of naive.
Yeah.
They're kind of like, I don't want to say do-gooders, but they're that do-good
That has an
mentality.
expectation.
Yeah, like
So-
save the world mentality. A lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them have this save the world. I'm gonna do good and save the world, and this is how I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I am going to go out and get licensed as a foster parent and take in a foster kid or foster kids, and then they're totally unaware of
They
the
don't even know
behavioral
how.
issues
Yeah.
that come with these kids, the cultural backgrounds these kids come from, the psychological backgrounds they come from, and what has actually happened to these kids.
Yeah.
They get the background on what's happened to the kid on a piece of paper.
But they don't know what
You know,
actually is
yeah.
in their head, what's
So,
going on, and all the
yeah.
repercussions of what will happen with that.
It's
Yeah.
like the dual diagnosis thing. You already got drugs and alcohol, right? And then you
Yeah.
got sex trafficking too, like
Yeah.
like being abused.
Yeah.
You know, a survivor. They
Yeah.
can. Oh my
And then
gosh.
you're gonna have, they could have mental illness on top of that, or they
Oh
could have,
yeah.
I mean, it was something else with that.
And the sad thing is, we can't even be like, these parents need to be educated before they become foster parents, because now we're placing another type of limitation of people becoming
Yeah.
foster parents when we're trying to get more.
Yeah.
Because now it's at this
Right.
point where it's too late. It could be like, if you want to keep being a foster parent, you need to come do these classes.
Yeah.
Continuous education.
Yeah,
or something.
continuous education, that's what it should be. And they do have classes like that for foster parents, but you don't have to go to them.
It-
Once
they
you're
should be a
licensed,
requirement.
You don't have
It
to.
you
should
don't
be a
have
requirement.
to. You don't
CNAs have to renew their licenses,
Right.
and so do nurses
Right.
and doctors. So
Yeah.
workers,
So do social-
lawyers.
Don't
Yeah.
you? I mean, you would think that you would want to enhance their life.
yeah.
You know.
You have to keep up your licensing, but you don't have to, like, say you
Right.
offer, like, say you went to the state and offered a class to foster parents in human trafficking, right? They don't have to go to it.
But you
They
think you had a
should be
child that was
required.
trafficked.
But they don't know that
But-
they're
But they
trafficked.
they
That's
may
something hidden.
they may not know the child
Somewhere
has been
there's
or is
a
being
gap.
trafficked. The
Right, there's a
social
gap.
worker may not know. You know,
I think people just think it's taboo and they need to steer away from it. And our society, you know, when you got a bunch of social workers sometimes, or people that work for the county or city, those are the ones that don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. Some of them are like that.
But
And it's like, you need to talk about it because this generation has changed. We have an opiate epidemic.
yeah.
The second largest crime is, come on now, is sex trafficking. Is,
How do you
you know,
not
it's
talk
like,
about it if it's the second most popular?
Yeah.
Like, how do you
But
not
the
talk about
thing
it?
is that people don't know it's the second most organized crime.
Exactly.
And how do you not
And-
know with the Epstein
But
case?
that's a
How
lot
do
of
you not know?
because
Not-
that's native privilege and
I
I'm
don't
not looking at
Yeah.
statistics.
Yeah,
You're not.
I didn't know
Yeah.
that the whole
I'm just saying, like,
Epstein thing
that's-
that was going on. I was not
But
aware of
the
that.
fact that it doesn't say that in those cases that that's not the second most popular is a crime almost on media to an extent. Like
Yeah.
that's taking it.
It's a high profile.
It's a
yeah.
high profile case, and with high profile cases, they have the opportunity to share something that's really drastic to the issues at hand, and they're not taking the opportunity when they need to.
So
But
I'm
you
gonna.
don't.
So I want to say
I'm saying
something. I
that's the
may
problem.
not. You may want to edit it, but I believe that if the president of the United States signs a human trafficking thing, and he's got his daughter, you know, doing something human trafficking, that's a cover up. They already knew.
Yeah.
They already know. They're right there in Florida, the worst state in the United States of sex trafficking.
And they have the opportunity to take advantage of it and say something, and they're not.
But they're part of it because it's, well, I don't know about
It's
part of it, but
people
you know,
in- yeah,
they
people-
know.
People in privilege are the ones that use sex trafficking the most.
And they're gonna keep their privilege by keeping it in their own little
And we,
microcosm.
and we talked about that. The highest
Yeah.
buyers are,
white men.
White men.
So
No,
Affluent white men.
and in the legal
And in the
industry,
legal
and
profession
And
and
business,
in the
yes,
medical
business.
profession.
Yeah.
And in the
So-
and law.
And
Also
it ain't,
purchase
and it
it
ain't
online.
about bashing. It's getting awareness. Like it's getting people to know this is happening. Like, what do you want to do?
To me,
Like,
it's
why
about
would you? Why would you not
Thank you,
want to?
Joy, because I'm gonna
sorry.
bash.
I'm not
I'm
bashing.
gonna
They
bash.
started
I'm
a
not
Me-
bashing.
They started a Me Too movement for white privileged women in Hollywood, but they don't want to look down.
Who started it? I'm told.
Privileged women.
No. I think the
What?
first person who started it wasn't a white woman. I think it was originally an African American
Really?
woman.
The
Yeah.
Me Too movement?
Yeah. It was,
Yeah, I think
Okay,
it
but
was.
still, the people who
What
are
is
See?
that?
I know the origin.
the people who are
Okay, no.
benefiting off of that Me Too
Yes,
movement
was a
are
copycat woman.
yeah. but it's still
Oh, wow.
it's still people of privilege who are benefiting off of that movement.
Totally agree.
If you're able to make a Me Too movement, standing up for actors and actresses who could hire lawyers, who could hire people to protect them from these sexual predators, why aren't we doing the same thing with people who are being sex trafficked?
That's true.
You guys are sitting here shouting Me Too, but what about the people who are less fortunate? Why aren't you guys reaching down and making sure they have their Me Too voice too?
Yeah.
You guys are giving a platform to people who already have mega platforms, mega followers, when we should be giving a platform to those who do not have voices. And when you guys were speaking up, you guys weren't speaking up for people who were below you. You guys were speaking up for people on the A-list level and on your status.
The question is for the Me Too movement, are sex trafficking victims considering themselves a part of the Me Too?
No.
Right.
Because they can't be considered a part of the Me Too movement.
You're saying that
that's a whole other issue.
Right. They don't want to be a part of that issue.
That's organized crime.
Right. They need somebody else to stand up with it.
And that's what I'm saying. These people have not reached down and let us borrow their platform. They
don't want to borrow it, they want a new one.
Because they don't understand it and that has
they don't want to borrow it, they need a new one.
There going
they don't
on
need a new one.
they're not going to address that on camera. They're not. That's maybe some, but when it comes to sex trafficking, the word sex, like, they'll turn their head quick, especially if somebody has a lot of money and is in the limelight, might want a contract, might want to do this movie, and if they do something like this, oh please.
It's not about the sex, it's about the trafficking.
I know that, but the first thing they see is when they hear the sex. They are, society already feels negative when they hear sex trafficking. When they hear prostitution, that's why they changed the legal system. When the court documents, I don't know if you guys do that here, but they say victim. They don't say prostitute. They say victim in Oregon.
Because that's what it is.
Because they're changing that mindset, you know, like people being so judgmental.
Yeah.
And our society is, is very judgmental.
Well, I don't know what it is above 18. Or is it above 18? Are they still charged for crimes if they're above 18?
As a minor?
No, above 18.
Yeah,
prostitution.
Yeah.
Above
prostitution.
18.
Yeah.
What about Cynthia Brown? What was her name?
Oh, Cynthia Brown.
Cynthia Brown.
Yeah.
She was 16 when she was sex
No, but I'm
trafficked.
talking about in the state. If they're adults.
I'm sure that they still get prosecuted as adults. They're over 18.
So they are charged.
I mean,
I'm
under
sure.
Yeah.
Under 18,
Oh, yeah.
they're not charged.
Under 18.
It depends on.
I have the
depends.
definition.
It depends on.
There is a definition in
I mean, I believe that too.
Yeah.
I believe it depends also.
But you can also be charged any child, minor can be charged as an adult for.
It takes us diving down into the deepest pits of sex trafficking before then we'll be like, okay, well now we need people who have agencies who knows about sex trafficking. Let's educate ourselves about sex trafficking.
And here's the money to do it with.
And here's the money. We've always had it, but we secretly pretended we didn't have it.
Yeah.
There you go.
No.
That's why when I feel like when Montgomery County approached me to be on their advisory committee, like once a month at 10, so they can get educated. Instead of giving me like maybe a contract so I can go educate.
Let me
schools,
stop.
treatment, wherever, you know.
Let me stop you right. From now on, whenever people ask for your services, where is the money?
I know, you're
Because
not the only person who said that.
If you want me to help you out, you have to help me out.
Yeah, there's an exchange.
You need to write a contract.
And you know what? Let me tell you this. I believe that there's somewhere inside of me that I feel like, you know, I'm doing something for money, exchanging the money, even though it's for the right service, that it still feels like, you know, because I have such a strong passion for this, and I'll do it for free.
But you should. But your services need to be appreciated with the. It needs to be reciprocated properly, and if your giving is of worth, then you need to be compensated properly, and that's with funds.
And you know what? I'm just now getting there.
Yeah.
It's been almost 3 years, and I'm just now.
And it doesn't have to be funds. It can be any kind of worth that.
Oh,
It could be a
has to be
building.
fun,
It could
baby
be.
girl.
It doesn't have to. But
If you're not talking money, I don't want to talk.
But not everything. Wait. What if it's not necessarily fun? It could be a place, like a shelter place to facilitate somebody. It could be a.
But that all takes funding. Even
Yes.
if they do get per the facility, who's paying to do
Well,
the
that's
bill?
afterwards, because eventually you'll get the fund because you can
can't be
prove that you have something.
afterwards. It can't be afterwards. It has to be during and before that conference. If you're giving me a building, excuse me, who else is paying for this bill? Because it's not coming out of my pocket.
Yeah,
I can't afford
who's paying to sustain the building?
Well, eventually,
Yeah.
And
you
who's
have
paying
something.
for all this work to be done?
And
Who's paying for
Yeah.
people to do
Because then you
outreach?
have more
Yeah.
And
Outreach
for
is
her-
expensive.
Yeah.
This is
It
my
is
first time
expensive,
getting
yeah.
these brochures
and they're beautiful.
because they're so
Yeah.
expensive.
they
Thank you.
are.
Yeah, they're not.
You know, and it's like I had a grant, my first grant with from like this was sponsored Northeast Neighborhood Coalition, but it's like I need more to really have services and do more outreach,
And it's
travel.
not even just about the outreach. When you get this funding, you shouldn't feel guilty about asking for funding because when you get this funding, you're giving it back to these
Yeah.
victims. Without
Thank you,
that funding,
Joy.
you can't
That's
help
what I was
people.
gonna say. And for the message to get out, you're gonna need funding.
Yeah.
That's
Otherwise,
Exactly.
you're just gonna stay in this one little space.
Yeah, it's kind of how
You-
it's. You know, I'm humble because I'm really grateful that I get to do this. That I feel like God chose me. You know, but on the flip side, it's like now I'm thinking, why ain't they paying me? Because I know my stuff.
You do know.
California's calling me. You guys called me. You know, like people call me. The city. Oh my God, what's her name? She does the Native American. Laura John. She's in charge of director of tribal something. I can't remember. But she's Native American. The missing and murdered indigenous. Oh,
That's Joy.
But yeah, it's like I'm wanted, but yet like I could do so much more when it comes to hands-on, like with the curriculum and the way I really vision.
Yeah.
You know?
And you could educate other agency workers too.
Yeah.
I think that's your next step is
I
to
believe
create
so.
something to be.
I believe
And
so.
once you start placing a value on, as soon as they're like, hey, can you come and speak out, and you send them, this is my fee, and they're like, oh, we thought you were free, and you're like, no, this is what my fee. You don't have to explain your fee.
Yeah.
Just tell them this is my fee the next time that
Yeah.
and they'll pay it. They'll end up paying it eventually.
Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
but what
So I need to stop being nice.
you need
huh?
to stop being nice.
Yeah,
Okay,
because the information you
funny.
gave us this morning. Sorry, audience, that you weren't privy to it, but you can contact Rena.
Yeah, we're not giving you
And she ain't free no more.
She's not free anymore. We took her off of that.
You guys
We took her off the free list. But I think
I know they're not tempting me.
Oh,
Oh
that
my
was
gosh.
a good one. But what now? I forgot what I was gonna say. No, I forgot what I was gonna say now.
We're talking about services, funding.
No, but I was gonna say something. Oh well.
Services.
Sorry.
So you do services. How do you help victims and survivors build their self-esteem?
Yeah.
Because that's one of your
Oh,
services.
That's a good one.
stole the
So
question.
how I do that is educate them with the curriculum that I showed you, like advocating, learning that they are equal to you or to you, that they are equal, no matter what they've been through, what they had to do to, they're equal. And so we always had discussions like that. And we set goals, we talk about resumes and jobs and,
Kind of filtering back into mainstream society.
yeah, and like the fashion show, because they like me so much, because I believe in them. They were like, yeah, I want to model, I can't wait to model. And it was so, oh my God, it was so beautiful to see these women, like out of 13 women, almost 80%, 75, 80% get up there and model. Like they were doing something big.
That's the
And it was.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
You know,
put
and
yourself.
this is a way you can be beautiful, hold your head up high, and you're not you're not hoeing, you know, you're not turning tricks.
Yeah.
And so that's how I empower them and get them to believe in
See
themselves.
themselves in a different light and
Yeah.
in a more self-worth
Yeah.
light, yeah.
And some I try to encourage, depending on the individual, like to go back to school. Like, oh my God, you should be a counselor. You're so smart. You know, because victims and survivors, well, even addicts, they're smart. People are smart. They just got a problem. That's it. If that's addressed, shoot, they're off and running.
Yeah.
What are some stereotypes that we need to break down from society that come with sex trafficking and sex work?
That, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off. That people need to stop judging. They need to stop being in denial because that could happen to them or their grandchildren. Their family members could be trafficked. You know, get caught up, as they say.
And that's what most people don't want to talk about it, speak
Nope.
about it, or even smell it until it's at home.
Right.
No, and some people don't even like the word human or the phrase human or sex trafficking.
Words
They don't like it because they look at it still as prostitution. Here's the trick or the John, and you're the hoe. And if you're a hoe, then you're just on the dregs of society. We don't care about you because all you are is a hoe. So they try and make it like, oh, pretty it up with, you know, sex and human trafficking. These people aren't being trafficked. That's their choice.
No.
And that's a stereotype.
That needs to stop.
Yeah, that right there. Yeah, because you don't know when you see a prostitute. You don't know where, why,
You don't know what's happening
who,
behind
what, when, where, how, why. You don't know the story. You don't know the reasons. You don't know anything about that person.
There's like stories that I have read where people like go to the emergency room. There's this one story in Boston that happened. And they went to the emergency room and she was like probably a high-end
Call girl.
escort, whatever,
Escort,
And she said, she handed them a note and she said, I have a tracker in me. And they pulled out a RDF chip or
Oh, yeah.
RFD.
chip.
Yeah, they pulled that out like a little capsule. This is the size and it was right here. So he could keep an eye on her. Know where she was at.
Yeah.
And people are still, and then I read another article, this is not happening. The old white man was a doctor, I guess, at a presentation.
Yeah.
He said, this doesn't happen. They use that for animals and blah, blah, blah. Well, how the hell do you think a trafficker looks at their victim? A commodity. They don't think they're human. They don't care about life.
They don't care about them being human.
And a lot of these people, since it is the most organized crime, if you watch what goes on with crime, they have their own doctors. Their doctors do research on what? Animals.
Yep.
So they know. They test out products on different people before they release it into the market.
They're gonna work.
Dogs.
They're gonna work.
Yeah.
They're gonna work.
I think you're like we were talking about the isolation. You're isolated in a certain context to the point where a pimp could have 10 women and they could all be microchipped.
You gotta keep track of your money.
Yep, it's just like I watch my money in the bank. I watch my money in the bank. I watch it go in and I watch it go out.
I put on that Chase app.
You keep track of all your transactions.
Why do you think my pimp came to Job Corps?
Yeah.
Because he lost his ATM machine. It wasn't a kill me.
Yeah.
I mean, he really was in a kill me.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't think that would ever, I never took it serious back then. Now when I look at it, I'd be like, wow, I could have died.
Yeah.
Because 2 weeks after he did that, he went to, it was out in Troutdale. And he had his homeboy in this big old long Cadillac. He came to like say, Rena, let's go smoke some weed, right? So I was gonna go. I'm like, come on, I'm ready. And I sit in the car. He looks at me. He goes, I can't do it, Rena. I said, what? he goes, so and so's waiting at the park and he's gonna kill you. And my stupid ass, my mentality is like, take me there, that motherfucker, you know, because I was so hard, you know, at that time. That now I look and think, my God, he could have killed me.
He really was gonna trap you.
He was gonna kill me.
Wow.
Yeah.
How to do it? Okay, but
So, but yeah, I would say those are my indicators. And I made a little flyer with Seattle was on it too.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
and I think I have it in my bag. But there's indicators on there and signs. And when I was traveling to California, they put indicators in the rest areas now too.
yeah,
Some at the airports.
Boat areas, like ferry areas.
yeah, and
Yeah.
even in what is it? In rest stops they have them, and in the
Yeah,
airlines
rest
they
areas,
have them. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that we are becoming more aware, but at the same time, no offense, what's putting up a sign gonna do for a woman? When I call this number, is it very
Yeah.
responsive? And this is a sign,
Yeah.
this is my lifestyle, I'm used to this.
Yeah.
There needs to be something better than just a little sign and a phone number.
Yeah.
Because what if I don't have access to a phone? What if I'm
That's the
using my
real one.
pimp's phone?
You're right.
I don't think those, yes, nice effort, good try, but let's try something new in my opinion.
So I've been to a bar where they have in the women's restroom that they switch every day a different word that you can say to the bartender.
Oh, really?
And they actually said, it says in here, in the stalls, and it was, I don't know what bar it was, it doesn't really matter, but they say in the stall, it's in the stall, it's not outside, so the
Yeah.
guys don't know, only girls
That's
change
the rest
it.
areas too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They say to the bartender, you want this drink. And they change the drink order, and it's not a normal drink, it's whatever it was. And they came up with something at this particular bar, so they notify somebody that there's something wrong, like.
Oh, yeah.
And that's something useful. They should have people like that stationed at the airport. Like when I go up and I ask for my blah blah, my baggage check, like a
Yeah.
code word or something.
Yeah.
I think if
I
you're
think
gonna
they're
put those
trying.
pamphlets, you should at least have someone stationed there instead of just the police. Because at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm not about to go to law enforcement and tell them that I've been a prostitute, because I don't know how they're gonna handle that. I don't know if they're trained in the fact that I'm not a willing prostitute and that I'm a forced prostitute. They might take me into jail. So I'm not gonna
Yeah.
approach law enforcement.
They're
There
afraid
should
of
be an
being
advocate.
judged.
Yeah.
Well, I heard there's a lady that reached out to me and she started this soap thing, and she's always like, we need to sit down and talk. But she wants to do a bar of soap, and then it'll have a phone number in it in like hotels, like where the hot spots where people, you know, like by the airport, those hotels where people are flown in and they fly back out. Yeah.
Or even in like tampons and pads.
That's
and
a
stuff.
great idea.
Because really,
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's the only time they have time to themselves is in the bathroom.
Bathroom.
And that's really sad, you know, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So we did talk about escorting a little bit. What would people say is the difference between escorting and
Not
prostitution?
a damn thing.
Not one.
It's
A
just the
name.
way the
Just
way the
the
world
word.
perceives it.
It's the way the world perceives.
It's just a little
Or-
classier thing put
Yeah.
on it.
It's the way the world perceives poor women versus more privileged women.
And there's another, I saw this thing on Twitter lately, someone tweeted and they were like, if you are having sex with a man just because he's wealthy, you're prostituting yourself. Do you guys agree with that?
No.
No,
No?
no.
No, because men have their standards for women too. Men have, because of we live in a patriarchal society. What are men's commodities? Okay, the money you make, the house you live in, the car you drive, your bank account. What do men look at women for? Your looks. How good do you
A
look?
trophy.
What's like? Well, how pretty are you? How? You know, yeah. they don't
They
look
don't
at
think
you.
about-
So it's an uneven system of comparison.
I don't.
So here's my thing, if you're gonna look at a female and choose her for her looks, then I'll choose you for your bank account. And I'll screw you for your bank account. Does that make me you chose to spend the money on me, we went out to dinner, we had a nice time, I felt like having sex with you, I have my own agency, I had sex with you.
I mean, if you're writing out, to me, if you're writing out on Facebook or social media, like, to me, it's
You
kind of
have
stupid.
issues. Yeah, it is stupid.
Because for me, I would love to date a man with money. That don't make me a whore.
Yeah.
I had been married to a man that made good money, was a good provider. But yeah, I think it
doesn't-
depends on your
Sometimes, yeah,
mentality.
Yeah. And women don't write these rules. These are rules made by white males. Well, white or black women don't write these rules. White men write these rules. So they brought all this into the fore.
Yeah, it's been
Yeah,
in this
so-
since.
So it's just part of being a male in this society. It's like, it's never gonna change. You're always gonna look at females for their looks, and women are always gonna look at men in some capacity. It's like, as a provider, what can you provide? I don't care how educated
There's always
we
an
all get.
exchange.
Yeah.
There's always an
There's always
exchange,
that's
right?
true, there's always
There's
an exchange.
always an exchange. You know, rich men a rich man. Have you ever seen a rich man with an ugly, beat up, old, haggy woman on his arm? No.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Unless it's their
But
wife
it's
for
not
20, 30
common.
years.
Yeah.
I mean, the woman who is the breadwinner and the man who takes care of the house. I mean, like, there's situations like that.
Rare.
It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. You just have to look at who gives what in a relationship.
Yeah, there's always
There's always a give and take.
there's always product to be bought and there's a buyer.
That's true.
There always is. Oh, and I always heard somebody say, well, you're either a pimp or you're a one of the two. In everything in life,
Well,
you're either
dang,
a
I
pimp or
must
you're
have
a hoe.
been both.
So I'm
No, I'm just
saying,
kidding.
because they're looking at it as an exchange.
in exchange
of,
for goods.
right,
and
like
a take.
if you work at a company, you're a hoe, and the owner of the company is pimping you. But that's not really true, because
Well-
you're providing a service. You're it's an exchange.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So at the University of Oregon, when I did my human trafficking class, they had, oh my God, what is their name? The EPIC program. And it's a man, Ron Clark, I think his name is. He comes in and he talks about how society, men have always put women, like, looking sexy, under their foot,
Yeah.
having their foot on our neck, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always been the mentality. There's so many different scenarios of how our society has been, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
because
it's true.
it
you
is
haven't
true.
adapted to it where it's not major.
And I think a lot of women don't know any better but to play into it.
Yeah.
They
I
don't know any
mean, when
better.
you
But
think
that's-
about it, my mom was 15 when she married my dad. Because she
Yeah.
was pregnant with me.
Yeah.
And it's like that she loved him so much, he could do whatever he wanted, but she was gonna be with him.
Mhm.
That was her first love. And to me, when I look at that now, I'll be like, damn, Mom. you know, like,
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
that's a lot of the situation for, I'm going to say, a lot of these women in America, and I'm going to say all over the world.
Yeah.
We always look at men as, we want someone who has status, and we're always in a bind whenever we find these men. My mom got married at 18 to she had my brother at 18. She got married, I think, at 19 to my dad. And he was someone who had wealth and status and an upper class type thing. And my mom didn't have that. So obviously she's going to marry him and get
Yeah.
into that society. But that doesn't make her, I think that's all intergenerationally throughout women. That's how
Yeah.
we're trained. It's
Mhm,
always,
right.
I want to survive, and I'm going to survive with the fittest. I'm
Yeah.
going to survive with the
And I'll
provider.
probably sit at home. You know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't marry anybody that didn't have. If I was really young and the person I was in love with didn't have any money, at least have some potential to get it. Be in school, doing, or have your own trade, or own your own bit, something where I can see potential growth. But if I don't see that, I'm just like, I don't understand the point, and that's what I'm talking about. It's always been an exchange of commodities, you know.
And that's and that's another thing. A lot of people are like, "Wow, you're so harsh on men." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I will date a guy who works at McDonald's if he's studying to become a doctor. That's no problem.
Right,
We can study those. It's always just about potential, and you have to show me what you're willing to do with this life. I don't want you telling me what you can do. I want you showing me what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
I don't care where you start. It's about where you're going to end and where you plan on ending."
But then, just to bring it back to the topic, but then a lot of women don't have enough self-worth or self-esteem to have to have that type of attitude you have.
I know, I was just sitting here listening to these two, and I was thinking, like, how old are you?
23.
How old are you? See,
Almost.
see,
You're 30,
it's like,
Almost.
and then I don't know, it's just like, you know, like, they have a chance. Because of where they came from, you know, and then there's poverty where, like me, being in the Columbiaville on crack, you know, or whatever, and it's like, my daughter ended up, you know, going to prison, but she survived that, and she's successful today. But it's like, you guys have a good head on your shoulder. I just, you know, actually you're the age that I do my groups with. And then there's women that are almost my age that have deep, deep, deep trauma that I probably will never be able to help them. For one, I ain't no damn therapist, you know, but I'm there for them as support, peer-on-peer support.
Yeah.
And you guys got, man, you're lucky. You are blessed. But when I deliver it, I have lived experience, so I know where they're at. I know where they're at, what the triggers are, what their barriers are. If you was a DHS worker and didn't have lived experience, you wouldn't know that.
Yeah. Period.
Yeah. Period.
Period.
Okay. Yeah, that's funny. I can't believe I said that.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true in any advocacy. You if lived experience, you can.
Yeah, I can see it
Yeah,
right
you
now.
can see it. Yeah, you can see it. It's like you're looking in the mirror at yourself.
Yeah. And with a non-judgmental way.
And through a lens of strength instead of weakness, because you are no longer the victim, you're the survivor, and and you're the advocate.
That's why when I write and stuff, I'll put survivor/victim. Because not everybody's a survivor, but not everybody's a victim. It's real important that I write that.
Yeah.
I address it.
Yeah, it depends on where you are.
We're just
Wow.
Thank you so much for confabulating with us.
Yay.
Okay, so once again, this is Rena from Another Level,
And we'll have all of her contact information below.
Yes. This is my logo. This is my nephew's art. This is my bridesmaid. Ex-bridesmaid. Thank you, you guys.
Thank you.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Bye.
Thank you.